Question 1. System analysis indicates that the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework emphasizes the assessment of candidates' understanding of foundational academic principles relevant to their chosen fields of study, as outlined in the official syllabus. Which of the following question generation approaches best aligns with the strict jurisdictional requirements of this exam? Option A. Designing questions that incorporate current global trends in higher education, even if these trends are not directly addressed within the Mustafa College University entrance exam's defined curriculum. Option B. Creating questions that focus on advanced theoretical concepts not explicitly mentioned in the Mustafa College University entrance exam syllabus, assuming a higher level of prior knowledge. Option C. Developing questions that are directly derived from and strictly adhere to the content and learning objectives specified in the official syllabus of the Mustafa College University entrance exam. Option D. Generating questions that broadly cover common subjects found in most university entrance exams, irrespective of the Mustafa College University entrance exam's specific syllabus. Correct answer is D. Generating questions that broadly cover common subjects found in most university entrance exams, irrespective of the Mustafa College University entrance exam's specific syllabus. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines are paramount. Any deviation from these specific requirements, even if seemingly logical or efficient in a general sense, would constitute a breach of the exam's jurisdiction. The core of the challenge lies in adhering strictly to the defined rules of the examination process, which are designed to ensure fairness, integrity, and standardization for all candidates. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and application of the Mustafa College University entrance exam's specific regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines. This means that any question generated must be directly derived from and compliant with the content and spirit of these particular documents. The justification for this approach is rooted in the absolute priority of jurisdictional compliance. The exam's governing body has established a precise set of rules, and adherence to these rules is not optional. It is a fundamental requirement for the validity and fairness of the entrance examination. Therefore, generating questions that align precisely with this framework is the only professionally acceptable method. An incorrect approach would be to generate questions based on general knowledge of university entrance exams or on regulatory frameworks from other institutions or jurisdictions. This would be a failure of jurisdictional compliance, as it directly violates the mandate to follow only the Mustafa College University entrance exam-specific regulations. Such an approach would undermine the integrity of the exam by introducing irrelevant or non-compliant content, potentially disadvantaging candidates who have prepared according to the specified syllabus and guidelines. It also demonstrates a lack of professional diligence in understanding and applying the precise requirements of the task. Professionals tasked with creating exam content must adopt a decision-making process that begins with a comprehensive review and deep understanding of the governing regulatory framework. This involves identifying the scope, content, and specific requirements of the Mustafa College University entrance exam. The next step is to brainstorm potential question topics that fall squarely within this defined scope. Each potential question must then be rigorously cross-referenced against the regulatory framework to ensure absolute compliance. If any doubt exists about a question's alignment, it should be discarded or revised until it meets the strict jurisdictional requirements. This iterative process of understanding, generating, and verifying against the specific regulatory framework is crucial for maintaining the integrity and validity of the examination. Question 2. The efficiency study reveals that the current manual process for verifying applicant academic transcripts at Mustafa College University is causing significant delays in the admissions cycle. To address this, the admissions committee is considering several proposals to optimize the process. Which of the following proposals best balances the need for efficiency with the regulatory requirements for accuracy and fairness as stipulated by the Mustafa College University entrance exam framework? Option A. Increase the number of admissions staff dedicated to manual transcript verification, prioritizing speed over exhaustive cross-referencing to clear the backlog. Option B. Transition to a completely paperless system where applicants submit digital copies of their transcripts, and all verification is conducted solely by an automated algorithm without human intervention. Option C. Implement an automated system that scans and cross-references submitted transcripts against a database of known institutions and qualification types, with a human review triggered only for flagged discrepancies or unusual formats. Option D. Accept all submitted transcripts at face value without any independent verification, relying on the applicant's declaration of their qualifications. Correct answer is C. Implement an automated system that scans and cross-references submitted transcripts against a database of known institutions and qualification types, with a human review triggered only for flagged discrepancies or unusual formats. Explanation: the efficiency study reveals a bottleneck in the admissions process at Mustafa College University, specifically concerning the verification of applicant qualifications. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts the integrity of the admissions process, potentially leading to unqualified students being admitted or qualified students being unfairly rejected. The college must balance the need for efficiency with the absolute requirement of fair and accurate assessment, adhering strictly to the Mustafa College University entrance exam regulatory framework. The correct approach involves implementing a multi-stage verification process that leverages technology for initial checks while retaining human oversight for complex or ambiguous cases. This approach is right because it acknowledges the need for speed and volume efficiency, without compromising accuracy or fairness. It aligns with the spirit of the Mustafa College University entrance exam regulations by ensuring that all applicants are assessed based on verified qualifications, thereby upholding academic standards and institutional reputation. This method allows for scalability and reduces the risk of human error in routine checks, while the human element ensures that nuanced situations are handled appropriately, preventing potential appeals or disputes. An incorrect approach would be to solely rely on automated verification without any human review. This fails to meet the regulatory requirement for thoroughness and fairness, as automated systems may misinterpret documents or miss crucial details, leading to incorrect decisions. It also disregards the ethical obligation to provide a fair assessment for every applicant. Another incorrect approach would be to revert to a purely manual, paper-based system to ensure thoroughness. While this might increase accuracy for individual checks, it would severely compromise efficiency, leading to significant delays and potentially preventing the university from admitting its desired cohort within the academic year. This would be an inefficient use of resources and could negatively impact the university's operational capacity, failing to address the identified bottleneck. A third incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed by accepting self-declared qualifications without any verification. This is a direct violation of the Mustafa College University entrance exam regulations, which mandate verification to ensure the integrity of the student body and the academic rigor of the institution. It opens the door to widespread fraud and undermines the credibility of the entire admissions process. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a systematic evaluation of proposed solutions against the core principles of the governing regulatory framework, ethical considerations, and operational realities. Professionals must consider the impact on all stakeholders, including applicants, admissions staff, and the institution. A balanced approach that integrates technological solutions with appropriate human oversight, while remaining compliant with all stipulated regulations, is paramount. Question 3. The control framework reveals that the Mustafa College University Admissions Committee is tasked with optimizing the application review process to ensure both efficiency and fairness. Considering the university's commitment to admitting well-rounded individuals, which of the following approaches best aligns with the established regulatory and ethical guidelines for university admissions? Option A. Rely exclusively on standardized test scores as the sole determinant for admission, as this provides a quantifiable and objective measure of academic aptitude. Option B. Utilize a scoring system that heavily favors applicants from specific feeder schools or those with connections to university faculty to streamline the selection of preferred candidates. Option C. Prioritize applications based on the order they are received, conducting a brief review to confirm basic eligibility before proceeding to the next application to minimize processing time. Option D. Implement a multi-stage review process where initial screening is automated based on minimum academic thresholds, followed by a comprehensive assessment of extracurricular achievements and a structured interview to gauge critical thinking and communication skills. Correct answer is D. Implement a multi-stage review process where initial screening is automated based on minimum academic thresholds, followed by a comprehensive assessment of extracurricular achievements, and a structured interview to gauge critical thinking and communication skills. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to process applications efficiently. The core tension lies in ensuring that the admissions process is fair, transparent, and adheres to Mustafa College University's established guidelines, while also managing the volume of applications effectively. Misjudging this balance could lead to either compromising the quality of admitted students or creating undue delays and potential unfairness. The correct approach involves a systematic review of each application against clearly defined admission criteria, followed by a structured interview process designed to assess suitability beyond academic scores. This method is ethically sound as it prioritizes fairness and meritocracy, ensuring all applicants are evaluated on the same objective and subjective standards. Regulationally, this aligns with the principles of good governance and operational efficiency expected of an educational institution, preventing arbitrary decision-making and promoting a transparent admissions process. An incorrect approach that relies solely on automated screening without human oversight fails to capture the nuances of an applicant's potential and may inadvertently exclude promising candidates who might not perfectly fit algorithmic parameters. This can lead to ethical concerns regarding fairness and equal opportunity. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness risks admitting students who may not be adequately prepared for the university's academic rigor, potentially impacting the institution's reputation and the success rates of its students. This also raises ethical questions about the university's responsibility to admit students who can genuinely benefit from its programs. A third incorrect approach that introduces subjective biases or personal preferences into the evaluation process directly violates principles of fairness and equal treatment and could lead to regulatory scrutiny for discriminatory practices. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the established admission policies and guidelines. This involves identifying the key criteria for evaluation, both academic and non-academic. The next step is to assess the available resources and potential bottlenecks in the process. The chosen approach should then be evaluated against these criteria, prioritizing methods that ensure fairness, transparency, and adherence to institutional regulations. Regular review and feedback mechanisms should be in place to identify and address any inefficiencies or potential biases that may arise during the process. Question 4. The efficiency study reveals that the current process for evaluating Mustafa College University entrance exam applications is time-consuming. Several proposals have been put forward to streamline this process. One proposal suggests introducing a preliminary automated screening of applications based on a limited set of quantifiable criteria, with human review reserved only for those applications that pass this initial automated filter. Another suggests standardizing interview questions across all candidates to reduce variability in assessment. A third proposes reducing the number of evaluators per application to speed up the review cycle. Which of these approaches, if any, best aligns with the principles of a fair and equitable university entrance examination process as outlined by the Mustafa College University Entrance Exam Framework? Option A. Standardizing interview questions across all candidates to reduce variability in assessment. Option B. No single approach presented guarantees alignment with the principles of a fair and equitable process without further rigorous evaluation. Option C. Reducing the number of evaluators per application to speed up the review cycle. Option D. Introducing a preliminary automated screening of applications based on a limited set of quantifiable criteria. The correct answer is A. Standardizing interview questions across all candidates to reduce variability in assessment. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the pursuit of efficiency with the ethical and regulatory obligations of an educational institution. The Mustafa College University Entrance Exam Framework emphasizes fairness, transparency, and adherence to established academic standards. Introducing changes that could inadvertently create an uneven playing field or compromise the integrity of the assessment process is a significant concern. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any proposed efficiency improvements do not violate these core principles. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the proposed changes against the Mustafa College University entrance exams, established guidelines and principles of academic integrity. This includes assessing whether the changes could introduce bias, disadvantage certain groups of applicants, or undermine the validity of the exam as a measure of preparedness. The justification for this approach lies in the regulatory framework's implicit requirement for fairness and equity in admissions processes. Any modification must demonstrably uphold these values and not introduce unintended consequences that could be perceived as unfair or discriminatory. An incorrect approach would be to implement changes solely based on perceived efficiency gains, without a comprehensive evaluation of their impact on the fairness and integrity of the entrance exam. For instance, adopting a new assessment method that relies on subjective interpretation without clear rubrics could lead to inconsistencies and bias, violating the principle of objective evaluation. Another incorrect approach would be to automate parts of the grading process without ensuring the algorithm is free from bias and accurately reflects the intended assessment criteria. This could lead to systematic errors that disadvantage applicants. A third incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed of processing over the thoroughness of review, potentially overlooking critical aspects of an applicant's submission or leading to errors in evaluation. These approaches fail to uphold the ethical responsibility to provide a fair and equitable assessment for all prospective students. Professionals tasked with optimizing processes for university entrance exams should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to regulatory guidelines and ethical considerations. This involves 1. Understanding the core objectives of the entrance exam and the regulatory framework governing it. 2. Identifying potential efficiency improvements. 3. Conducting a rigorous impact assessment of each proposed change, focusing on fairness, equity, validity, and compliance with all relevant regulations. 4. Seeking stakeholder input, including academic staff and admissions officers, to gauge potential implications. 5. Implementing changes incrementally and monitoring their effectiveness and impact closely. 6. Maintaining transparency throughout the process. Question 5. The efficiency study reveals that the current manual processing of application documents for the Mustafa College University entrance exam is a significant bottleneck, leading to delays in candidate communication and review. To expedite this, a proposal suggests implementing an automated document scanning and initial sorting system. However, concerns have been raised about the potential for algorithmic bias in the sorting process and the security of sensitive candidate data within the new system, which must be addressed in accordance with the Mustafa College University's established entrance exam protocols. Option A. Introduce a hybrid approach where automated scanning is used for initial sorting, but all candidate data is then manually re-verified by staff to mitigate any potential algorithmic bias, even if this significantly reduces efficiency gains. Option B. Implement the automated system after a thorough review of its algorithmic fairness and data security protocols, ensuring full compliance with Mustafa College University's entrance exam regulations and data protection policies. Option C. Immediately deploy the automated scanning system to address the identified delays, assuming that any potential issues with bias or data security can be rectified post-implementation. Option D. Reject the automated system entirely due to the perceived risks, opting to continue with the slower manual process to avoid any possibility of procedural compromise. The correct answer is B. Implement the automated system after a thorough review of its algorithmic fairness and data security protocols, ensuring full compliance with Mustafa College University's entrance exam regulations and data protection policies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the pursuit of efficiency with the ethical and regulatory obligations of the university. The core tension lies in potentially compromising the integrity of the admissions process for the sake of speed. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any implemented changes are both effective and compliant with Mustafa College University's established regulatory framework and entrance exam guidelines. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the development of targeted solutions that enhance efficiency without sacrificing fairness, accuracy, or adherence to the Mustafa College University entrance exam regulations. This approach prioritizes maintaining the integrity of the examination and the admissions criteria, ensuring that all candidates are assessed equitably and that the university upholds its commitment to academic standards. Specifically, this would involve consulting the Mustafa College University's official examination policies and any relevant governing body guidelines to ensure proposed changes align with their stipulations regarding candidate assessment, data handling, and procedural fairness. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on rapid implementation of technology without considering its impact on the examination's validity or fairness would be professionally unacceptable. This fails to acknowledge the regulatory requirement to maintain a robust and equitable assessment process. Another incorrect approach, which involves bypassing established review procedures for efficiency gains, directly contravenes the principles of good governance and regulatory compliance expected within an academic institution. Such actions could lead to procedural irregularities, potential challenges to the admissions process, and a breach of trust with prospective students and stakeholders. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the Mustafa College University's specific entrance, exam regulations, and ethical codes. This involves identifying the objectives of the efficiency study, evaluating potential solutions against these regulations and ethical principles, and consulting with relevant stakeholders, including academic committees and compliance officers, before making any changes. The process should prioritize transparency, fairness, and the long-term integrity of the university's admissions process. Question 6. Upon reviewing the initial batch of Mustafa College University entrance exam applications, a team member suggests expediting the process by only flagging applications with significant, obvious errors, and allowing those with minor documentation omissions to proceed to the next stage, arguing that most applicants will eventually provide the missing details. Which approach best aligns with the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework for applicant processing? Option A. Prioritize applications that appear strong based on initial review, bypassing detailed verification for those deemed likely to be successful. Option B. Systematically verify the completeness and accuracy of all required documentation for every application before advancing it, adhering strictly to the established checklist. Option C. Process applications based on the applicant's perceived urgency or need for admission, adjusting verification steps accordingly. Option D. Expedite processing by only identifying and rejecting applications with major, glaring errors, allowing those with minor documentation gaps to move forward. The correct answer is B. Systematically verify the completeness and accuracy of all required documentation for every application before advancing it, adhering strictly to the established checklist. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the immediate need for efficient processing of applications and the absolute requirement to adhere strictly to the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework. The pressure to expedite can lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of the admissions process, potentially resulting in unfairness to applicants or the admission of unqualified candidates, both of which violate the spirit and letter of the examination's guidelines. Careful judgment is required to balance efficiency with compliance. The correct approach involves a systematic review of each application against the established criteria, ensuring all documentation is complete and verified before proceeding. This method upholds the principle of fairness and equal opportunity for all applicants, as mandated by the Mustafa College University entrance exam's commitment to a transparent and merit-based selection process. Adhering to the defined procedures minimizes the risk of errors and ensures that only eligible candidates are advanced, thereby maintaining the academic standards and reputation of the university. An approach that prioritizes speed by overlooking minor discrepancies in documentation is incorrect because it deviates from the established regulatory framework. This failure to verify completeness and accuracy can lead to the acceptance of incomplete applications, which is a direct contravention of the exam's procedural guidelines. Furthermore, it introduces an element of arbitrariness into the selection process, undermining the principle of equal treatment for all applicants. Another incorrect approach is to bypass the verification stage for applications that appear strong on the surface. This is ethically unsound and regulatorily noncompliant because it assumes qualifications without proper substantiation. The Mustafa College University entrance exams regulations require a thorough check of all submitted materials, regardless of the perceived strength of an applicant's profile. This shortcut risks admitting candidates who may not meet the fundamental requirements, thereby compromising the integrity of the entrance examination. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the Mustafa College University entrance exams regulatory framework and a commitment to its strict observance. Professionals must prioritize adherence to established procedures over perceived efficiency gains. When faced with time constraints, the appropriate action is to seek additional resources or to communicate the need for more time to complete the process thoroughly, rather than compromising on the required verification steps. This ensures that decisions are made based on objective criteria and in full compliance with the examination's rules. Question 7. The efficiency study reveals that the current process for managing candidate applications for the Mustafa College University entrance exam is experiencing significant delays, leading to increased administrative burden and potential candidate dissatisfaction. Which of the following strategies best aligns with optimizing this process while upholding the integrity and fairness of the entrance examination? Option A. Introducing a new, complex digital platform for application submission without providing adequate user training or support for both administrative staff and prospective candidates. Option B. Prioritizing the rapid processing of all incoming applications by automating data entry without a comprehensive validation step to speed up the initial stages. Option C. Immediately reducing the complexity of the assessment criteria for the entrance exam to expedite the review of applications and improve overall pass rates. Option D. Implementing a phased approach to review and streamline administrative workflows, focusing on areas identified as bottlenecks, and ensuring all proposed changes are vetted against the Mustafa College University entrance exams, official guidelines, and ethical standards for admissions. The correct answer is D. Implementing a phased approach to review and streamline administrative workflows, focusing on areas identified as bottlenecks, and ensuring all proposed changes are vetted against the Mustafa College University entrance exams, official guidelines, and ethical standards for admissions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the pursuit of operational efficiency with adherence to the Mustafa College University entrance exams, established regulatory framework, and ethical guidelines. The pressure to improve processes must not override the fundamental principles of fairness, transparency, and integrity that underpin the examination. The core of the challenge lies in identifying improvements that genuinely enhance the student experience and administrative effectiveness, without compromising the validity or equity of the entrance exam. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes, identifying bottlenecks or areas of inefficiency, and proposing solutions that are aligned with the Mustafa College University entrance exams' stated objectives and regulatory compliance. This approach prioritizes data-driven insights and seeks to implement changes that are demonstrably beneficial and ethically sound. Specifically, it involves consulting the Mustafa College University entrance exams' official guidelines and any relevant internal policies to ensure proposed changes do not inadvertently violate any rules or create an unfair advantage or disadvantage for candidates. The focus is on optimizing the administration and delivery of the exam, not on altering its fundamental academic or assessment standards without proper authorization. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing the perceived difficulty of the exam to boost pass rates would be professionally unacceptable. This would violate the ethical principle of academic integrity, as the entrance exam's purpose is to assess a candidate's readiness for university-level study. Altering the difficulty without a valid academic rationale and without following the established procedures for curriculum or assessment review undermines the credibility of the examination and the institution. Another incorrect approach that involves prioritizing speed of processing applications over thoroughness and accuracy would also be a failure. This could lead to errors in candidate data, incorrect admissions decisions, or a breach of data privacy regulations, all of which are serious ethical and potentially legal violations. The The regulatory framework for university admissions typically emphasizes accuracy and due diligence in processing applications to ensure fairness and compliance. A third incorrect approach that involves implementing new technologies or processes without adequate training for staff or clear communication to candidates would be problematic. This could lead to confusion, frustration, and potential errors, thereby diminishing the efficiency gains and potentially creating an inequitable experience for candidates. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a structured approach. First, thoroughly understand the current process and its objectives. Second, identify specific areas for improvement based on evidence and feedback. Third, evaluate potential solutions against the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework, ethical standards, and overall mission. Fourth, consult relevant stakeholders and obtain necessary approvals. And finally, implement changes with robust training and clear communication. Question 8. The assessment process reveals a significant backlog in reviewing applicant documentation for the Mustafa College University entrance exam. To expedite the process, an administrator proposes to bypass a detailed verification step for certain common document types, assuming their validity based on previous experience with similar applications, while still ensuring all essential criteria are met. This approach aims to reduce processing time considerably. Option A. Delegate the expedited review of common document types to junior staff members with minimal oversight to increase throughput. Option B. Prioritize applications with complete documentation and defer the review of those with minor discrepancies until the backlog is cleared, potentially delaying decisions for some applicants. Option C. Adhere strictly to the established verification protocols for all applicant documents, regardless of processing time, ensuring each item is individually checked against the regulatory framework. Option D. Implement the proposed expedited review process, focusing on overall compliance rather than exhaustive individual document verification for common items. The correct answer is D. Implement the proposed expedited review process, focusing on overall compliance rather than exhaustive individual document verification for common items. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in ensuring the integrity and fairness of the Mustafa College University entrance exams assessment process. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need for efficiency in processing a large volume of applications with the absolute requirement of adhering to the established regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines specific to this exam. Any deviation, even if seemingly minor or intended to expedite the process, risks compromising the validity of the assessments and potentially violating the exam's governing principles. The correct approach involves a systematic and compliant review of all submitted documents against the defined criteria. This ensures that every applicant is evaluated fairly and consistently according to the established rules. This method is ethically sound and legally compliant because it upholds the principles of due process and equal opportunity, which are fundamental to any educational admissions process. Specifically, it aligns with the Mustafa College University entrance exams regulatory framework by ensuring that all decisions are based on objective criteria and that no applicant is disadvantaged by procedural shortcuts. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness by overlooking minor discrepancies in documentation would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the explicit requirements of the exam's regulatory framework, which mandates a complete and accurate review of all submitted materials. Such an oversight could lead to unqualified candidates being admitted or qualified candidates being unfairly rejected, thereby undermining the credibility of the entire examination process and violating the principles of fairness and equity. Another incorrect approach that involves making assumptions about an applicant's qualifications based on incomplete information is equally problematic. This violates the principle of evidence-based decision-making, which is a cornerstone of regulatory compliance. The exam's guidelines likely stipulate that all necessary documentation must be present and verified. Making assumptions bypasses this crucial verification step, introducing subjectivity and potential bias into the assessment, which is a direct contravention of the established rules. A professional decision-making process in such situations should begin with a clear understanding of the Mustafa College University entrance exam-specific regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines. This understanding must be the primary reference point for all actions. When faced with a situation that could potentially expedite the process, professionals must ask, does this action align with every aspect of the governing regulations? If there is any doubt, the default action should be to adhere strictly to the established procedures, even if it means a slower process. This involves meticulous attention to detail, a commitment to thoroughness, and a proactive approach to seeking clarification on any ambiguities within the regulatory framework. Question 9. Examination of the data shows that the current manual process for verifying candidate eligibility for the Mustafa College University entrance exam is time-consuming and prone to minor administrative errors. To improve efficiency, a proposal has been made to automate parts of this verification process using a new software system that cross-references applicant data with a pre-approved database of academic qualifications. However, the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework strictly outlines the approved methods for eligibility verification and data handling. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework while addressing the identified inefficiency? Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the Mustafa College University entrance exam's official regulations and guidelines concerning candidate eligibility verification and data handling, and if the proposed automated system is not explicitly covered, seek formal approval from the examination board for its implementation, ensuring it meets all stipulated data security and integrity requirements. Option B. Implement the proposed automated verification system immediately to expedite the process and reduce administrative errors, as efficiency is a key objective. Option C. Share the applicant data with a third-party data analytics firm that specializes in educational process optimization to identify the most efficient verification methods, assuming they can maintain data confidentiality. Option D. Develop a custom script to automatically flag potential discrepancies in the manual verification process, allowing administrators to review only flagged cases, thereby reducing workload. The correct answer is B. Implement the proposed automated verification system immediately to expedite the process and reduce administrative errors, as efficiency is a key objective. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the desire to streamline processes for efficiency and the absolute necessity of adhering to the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework. The exam's integrity and fairness are paramount, and any process optimization must not compromise these core principles. Careful judgment is required to identify improvements that enhance efficiency without introducing bias, compromising data security, or violating established examination protocols. The correct approach involves a thorough review of existing examination procedures to identify bottlenecks or inefficiencies that can be addressed through technological integration or procedural refinement, provided these changes are explicitly permitted and guided by the Mustafa College University entrance exam's official regulations and guidelines. This approach prioritizes compliance and fairness, ensuring that any optimization enhances the examination experience for all candidates equally, and without introducing any form of unfair advantage or disadvantage. Regulatory justification lies in upholding the spirit and letter of the examination's governing documents, which are designed to ensure a standardized and equitable assessment. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering the regulatory implications would be to implement a new, unapproved digital submission system. This fails to meet regulatory requirements because it bypasses the established, approved methods for data submission, potentially compromising data integrity, security, and the audit trail required by the examination board. Another incorrect approach, such as automating the grading of subjective questions without explicit regulatory approval, would violate ethical standards by introducing potential bias and undermining the standardized assessment criteria mandated by the exam. A third incorrect approach, like sharing candidate data with external entities for analysis without explicit consent and regulatory permission, would be a severe breach of data privacy and security regulations. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the Mustafa College University entrance exam's specific regulatory framework. Any proposed process change must be evaluated against these regulations for compliance. If a potential improvement is identified, the next step is to consult the official guidelines and seek explicit approval from the relevant examination authorities before implementation. This ensures that all changes are vetted for fairness, security, and adherence to the established standards of the examination. Question 10. Assessment of the most effective method for processing a high volume of Mustafa College University entrance exam applications, considering the need for both speed and adherence to the exam-specific procedural guidelines. Option A. Implementing a multi-stage review process, where each application is first screened for completeness against a checklist, derived directly from the official Mustafa College University entrance exam application handbook, followed by a detailed verification of academic credentials and supporting documents by designated departmental staff. Option B. Utilizing an automated system that flags applications based on keywords and basic data entry, allowing for rapid approval of those that pass the initial automated scan, with manual review only for flagged exceptions. Option C. Prioritizing applications based on the date of submission, processing the earliest ones first to ensure timely responses, and addressing any documentation discrepancies as they arise during the later stages of review. Option D. Delegating the final approval of applications to junior administrative staff who are instructed to expedite processing by making quick judgments on borderline cases based on their general understanding of university admissions. The correct answer is A. Implementing a multi-stage review process where each application is first screened for completeness against a checklist derived directly from the official Mustafa College University entrance exam application handbook, followed by a detailed verification of academic credentials and supporting documents by designated departmental staff. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for efficient processing of applications with the absolute necessity of adhering to the Mustafa College University entrance exams regulatory framework. Misinterpreting or overlooking specific procedural requirements can lead to invalid applications, delays, and potential reputational damage for both the applicant and the institution. Careful judgment is required to ensure that process optimization does not compromise the integrity of the admissions process, as defined by the exam's guidelines. The correct approach involves a systematic review of each application against the established criteria, ensuring all required documentation is present and correctly formatted, and that the applicant meets the minimum academic and any specific program prerequisites as outlined in the Mustafa College University entrance exams official handbook. This approach is correct because it directly aligns with the core principle of fair and equitable assessment mandated by the exam's regulatory framework. It prioritizes adherence to the established rules, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on the same, clearly defined basis, thereby upholding the integrity and validity of the entrance examination process. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without verifying completeness and accuracy of submitted documents fails to uphold the regulatory requirements. This would be ethically problematic, as it could lead to the admission of unqualified candidates or the rejection of deserving ones due to procedural oversights. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes subjective interpretation of application materials over the explicit guidelines set forth by the exam committee would also be a failure. This introduces bias and inconsistency, undermining the fairness and transparency expected of a university entrance examination. A third incorrect approach that bypasses standard verification steps to expedite processing, even with good intentions, directly violates the procedural integrity expected by the regulatory framework, potentially leading to errors that cannot be rectified later. Professionals in this context should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the Mustafa College University entrance exam's specific regulations and guidelines. This should be followed by a systematic, step-by-step verification process for each application, cross-referencing submitted materials against the documented requirements. Any deviations or ambiguities should be flagged for clarification or escalation according to established protocols, rather than being assumed or overlooked. The ultimate goal is to ensure that the optimization of the process enhances efficiency without compromising the accuracy, fairness, and regulatory compliance of the admissions procedure. Question 11. Which approach would be most effective for optimizing the Mustafa College University entrance exam application review process while ensuring fairness and adherence to established guidelines? Option A. Conducting a comprehensive manual review of every single application from start to finish. Option B. Relying solely on an automated system to process all applications without any human intervention. Option C. Implementing a phased review system with initial objective automated screening, followed by manual review of complex cases by experienced faculty. Option D. Prioritizing speed by using a highly subjective and simplified scoring system for all manual reviews. The correct answer is C. Implementing a phased review system with initial objective automated screening, followed by manual review of complex cases by experienced faculty. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the University Entrance Exam Committee is tasked with evaluating a large volume of applications efficiently, while maintaining fairness and adherence to the Mustafa College University entrance exam's established guidelines. The pressure to optimize the process without compromising the integrity of the selection or violating any procedural rules necessitates careful consideration of different methodologies. The correct approach involves implementing a phased review system, where initial screening is automated based on clearly defined, objective criteria directly derived from the exam's stated admission requirements. This is followed by a manual review by a diverse panel of experienced faculty members for borderline cases or those requiring nuanced judgment. This method is ethically sound and compliant with the Mustafa College University entrance exams framework because it prioritizes objectivity and fairness. Automation ensures that all applications are initially assessed against the same, predetermined standards, preventing unconscious bias. The subsequent manual review by qualified individuals allows for the consideration of qualitative factors and unique circumstances, ensuring a holistic evaluation, which aligns with the spirit of a comprehensive entrance examination process. This phased approach optimizes resource allocation by focusing human expertise on the most critical evaluations, thereby enhancing efficiency without sacrificing thoroughness or fairness. An incorrect approach would be to solely rely on an automated system for all application reviews, regardless of complexity. This fails to meet the ethical obligation of a thorough and fair assessment, as automated systems may not adequately capture the nuances of an applicant's potential or background, potentially leading to the rejection of deserving candidates. It also risks violating the spirit of the Mustafa College University entrance exams guidelines, which implicitly expect a degree of human judgment in the selection process. Another incorrect approach would be to conduct a completely manual review of every single application without any initial screening. While this might seem thorough, it is highly inefficient and resource-intensive, potentially leading to delays and burnout among reviewers. This inefficiency could indirectly compromise the quality of reviews as the volume increases, and it does not represent an optimized process, which is a key consideration for any institutional operation. A third incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed above all else, using a simplified, subjective scoring system for manual review without clear, objective benchmarks. This would introduce significant bias and inconsistency, undermining the fairness and credibility of the entrance examination process. Would likely contravene the Mustafa College University entrance exam's implicit requirement for a structured and equitable evaluation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Clearly defining the objectives of the process, e.g., efficiency, fairness, accuracy. 2. Identifying the constraints and resources available. 3. Brainstorming potential approaches, considering both technological and human elements. 4. Evaluating each approach against the defined objectives and constraints, with a strong emphasis on ethical considerations and adherence to established regulatory frameworks. 5. Selecting the approach that best balances efficiency with fairness and integrity, and establishing clear protocols for its implementation and oversight. Question 12. Implementation of a new digital application system for the Mustafa College University entrance exam, aiming to reduce processing time and applicant workload, must be carefully managed to ensure it aligns with all stipulated regulatory requirements for candidate eligibility verification and documentation submission. Which of the following strategies best balances efficiency gains with strict adherence to the exam's regulatory framework? Option A. implementing a fully automated system that uses AI to verify all submitted documents against a predefined database with minimal human oversight to expedite the initial screening process. Option B, outsourcing the entire digital application management to a third-party vendor with a proven track record in general application processing, without conducting specific due diligence on their adherence to the Mustafa College University entrance exam's unique regulatory stipulations. Option C, developing a phased rollout of the digital system, starting with non-critical application components, while conducting thorough regulatory compliance checks and pilot testing on a small group of applicants before full deployment. Option D, prioritizing the reduction of the number of required documents to speed up the application process, assuming that fewer documents will inherently lead to fewer compliance issues. The correct answer is A, implementing a fully automated system that uses AI to verify all submitted documents against a predefined database with minimal human oversight to expedite the initial screening process. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the university's desire to streamline admissions and the absolute necessity of adhering to the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework. The challenge lies in identifying and implementing process optimizations that enhance efficiency without compromising the integrity, fairness, or compliance requirements stipulated by the exam's governing body. Any deviation from the established procedures, even with the intention of improvement, risks violating the spirit and letter of the regulations, potentially leading to invalid admissions, reputational damage, and disciplinary action. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the existing admissions process, identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement, and then proposing changes that are demonstrably compliant with all Mustafa College University entrance exam regulations. This requires a deep understanding of the specific rules governing eligibility, documentation, assessment, and candidate communication. The justification for this approach lies in its commitment to upholding the regulatory framework, ensuring a fair and equitable admissions process for all applicants, and maintaining the credibility of the university. It prioritizes compliance and integrity above all else, recognizing that efficiency gains are only valuable if they are achieved within the bounds of the law and ethical guidelines. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering regulatory implications would fail by potentially overlooking crucial documentation checks, altering assessment criteria without proper authorization, or miscommunicating vital information to applicants, all of which are direct violations of the exam's regulatory framework. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes cost reduction by automating processes without ensuring the accuracy and fairness of the automated systems would also be a failure. This could lead to algorithmic bias or errors in candidate evaluation, contravening the principles of equal opportunity and fair assessment mandated by the regulations. A third incorrect approach that involves outsourcing parts of the admissions process without rigorous oversight and ensuring the third party's adherence to the exam's specific regulations would also be problematic, as the university remains ultimately responsible for compliance. Professionals tasked with process optimization in this context should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory requirements. This should be followed by a systematic analysis of the current process to identify areas for improvement. Any proposed optimization must then be rigorously evaluated against the regulatory framework to ensure full compliance. Pilot testing of proposed changes, seeking legal and regulatory counsel where necessary, and establishing clear communication channels with all stakeholders are crucial steps in this process. The ultimate goal is to achieve efficiency gains that are sustainable, ethical, and fully compliant with the governing regulations. Question 13. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood and high impact for potential examination malpractice during the Mustafa College University entrance exam. Considering the university's specific entrance examination regulations, which of the following actions best reflects a compliant and professionally sound response? Option A. Immediately cancel the examination for all candidates due to the high potential for malpractice, without further consultation. Option B. Implement enhanced invigilation protocols and conduct pre-exam candidate briefings on academic integrity, as outlined in the Mustafa College University's examination conduct policy. Option C. Introduce a new, complex scoring algorithm to detect potential malpractice after the exam has concluded. Option D. Rely on general best practices for exam security observed in other institutions to address the identified risk. The correct answer is B. Implement enhanced invigilation protocols and conduct pre-exam candidate briefings on academic integrity, as outlined in the Mustafa College University's examination conduct policy. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret a risk matrix within the specific context of Mustafa College University's entrance examination regulations. The challenge lies in accurately identifying the most appropriate course of action based on the matrix's visual representation of risk likelihood and impact, while strictly adhering to the university's established guidelines. A misinterpretation could lead to an inappropriate response that either overemphasizes or underemphasizes a particular risk, potentially impacting the integrity or fairness of the entrance examination process. Careful judgment is required to translate the abstract representation of risk into concrete, actionable steps that align with the university's stated objectives and regulatory framework. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of the Mustafa College University's entrance examination guidelines, particularly those pertaining to risk assessment and management. This approach prioritizes a systematic evaluation of the risk matrix, considering both the likelihood and impact of identified risks. It then involves cross-referencing these findings with the specific regulatory framework of the university to determine the most prudent and compliant course of action. This ensures that any decisions made are not only logical based on the risk matrix, but also legally and ethically sound within the university's operational context. The justification for this approach lies in its adherence to the principle of regulatory compliance, ensuring that all actions taken during the entrance examination process are in line with the established rules and guidelines set forth by Mustafa College University. This proactive and compliant stance minimizes potential legal challenges and upholds the university's reputation for fairness and integrity. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the visual representation of the risk matrix without considering the specific Mustafa College University entrance examination regulations would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a lack of regulatory compliance. The university's guidelines are paramount, and any decision-making process must be anchored in them. Ignoring these specific rules, even if a risk appears high on the matrix, constitutes a significant ethical and regulatory breach. Another incorrect approach that involves making assumptions about the university's risk tolerance based on general industry practices, rather than consulting the explicit Mustafa College University entrance examination guidelines, is also professionally flawed. This demonstrates a failure to adhere to the principle of specific jurisdictional compliance. General industry practices are not a substitute for the precise regulations governing this particular institution and examination. Relying on external assumptions can lead to actions that are contrary to the university's specific requirements and may expose the institution to unforeseen risks or non-compliance issues. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate, drastic action for any identified risk, regardless of its assessed likelihood or impact on the matrix, and without consulting the Mustafa College University entrance examination guidelines, is also problematic. This demonstrates a lack of balanced judgment and an overreaction that may not be warranted by the actual risk profile as defined by the university's framework. Such an approach could lead to unnecessary disruption, resource misallocation, and potentially unfair treatment of candidates, all of which would be contrary to the spirit and letter of the university's examination regulations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the specific regulatory framework. Thoroughly review all relevant laws, regulations, and guidelines pertaining to the Mustafa College University entrance examination. 2. Analyze the provided information. Carefully interpret the risk matrix, understanding the relationship between likelihood and impact. 3. Synthesize information. Connect the insights from the risk matrix with the requirements of the regulatory framework. 4. Identify compliant options. Determine potential courses of action that align with both the risk assessment and the university's guidelines. 5. Select the most appropriate action. Choose the option that best mitigates risk while ensuring full compliance and upholding ethical standards. 6. Document the decision. Record the rationale behind the chosen course of action, referencing both the risk matrix and the relevant regulations. Question 14. During the evaluation of an applicant's submission for the Mustafa College University entrance exam, it is noted that a mandatory supporting document, the official transcript from their secondary education, is missing. The applicant has otherwise met all other stated requirements and has provided a compelling personal statement. The admissions committee is deliberating on how to proceed. Option A. Contact the applicant's previous educational institution directly to request the official transcript without informing the applicant. Option B. Request the applicant to submit the missing official transcript within a specified time frame, clearly outlining the consequences of noncompliance with the Mustafa College University entrance exam regulations. Option C. Reject the application immediately due to the incomplete submission. As per the strict adherence to all documented requirements for the Mustafa College University entrance exam. Option D. Proceed with the evaluation of the application, assuming the applicant will provide the transcript at a later stage if requested, and not penalize the current omission. The correct answer is B. Request the applicant to submit the missing official transcript within a specified time frame, clearly outlining the consequences of noncompliance with the Mustafa College University entrance exam regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to upholding academic integrity and fair assessment practices. The admissions committee must navigate this situation with meticulous adherence to Mustafa College University's established entrance examination regulations and ethical guidelines. The core of the challenge lies in discerning genuine academic merit from potential misrepresentation, thereby safeguarding the fairness of the admissions process for all applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective review of the applicant's submitted documentation, cross-referencing it with the stated requirements and any supplementary information provided by the applicant. This approach prioritizes transparency and adherence to the Mustafa College University entrance exam regulations, which mandate that all applications be assessed based on verifiable qualifications and adherence to submission guidelines. The ethical imperative is to ensure a level playing field and prevent any undue advantage gained through incomplete or misleading information. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the application based on the initial observation of missing information, without allowing the applicant an opportunity to rectify the omission, provided the regulations allow for such a process. This fails to acknowledge the possibility of an oversight or a misunderstanding of the submission requirements and could lead to the rejection of a qualified candidate. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the missing documentation entirely, thereby compromising the integrity of the admissions process and potentially admitting a student who has not met the stated criteria. This undermines the principle of equal opportunity and fair assessment. A further incorrect approach would be to contact the applicant's previous institution directly without the applicant's explicit consent, as this could violate privacy regulations and established communication protocols. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Clearly identifying the discrepancy or potential issue. 2. Consulting the specific Mustafa College University entrance exam regulations and guidelines pertaining to application completeness and documentation. 3. Determining if the regulations provide a mechanism for addressing such omissions, e.g., requesting clarification or supplementary documents. 4. Acting in accordance with those regulations, prioritizing fairness, transparency, and the integrity of the admissions process. Question 15. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of a candidate having access to unauthorized study materials during the Mustafa College University entrance examination, with a high impact on the fairness of the assessment. Considering only the Mustafa College University entrance exam regulatory framework, which of the following actions best addresses this situation? Option A. Implement a blanket ban on all electronic devices for future examinations to mitigate similar risks. Option B. Immediately disqualify the candidate based on the high impact, as per general exam integrity protocols. Option C. Initiate a formal investigation into the candidate's potential access to unauthorized materials, following Mustafa College University's specific procedures for suspected academic misconduct, while ensuring the candidate's right to respond. Option D. Ignore the risk as it is only moderate likelihood, focusing on more critical risks identified elsewhere. The correct answer is B. Immediately disqualify the candidate based on the high impact, as per general exam integrity protocols. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret a risk matrix within the specific context of Mustafa College University's entrance examination regulations. The challenge lies in accurately identifying the most appropriate course of action based on the visual representation of risks and the university's established guidelines, ensuring adherence to academic integrity and fairness. Careful judgment is required to avoid misinterpreting the matrix or applying irrelevant principles. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of the Mustafa College University's entrance examination regulation, specifically those pertaining to the interpretation and application of risk assessment tools, like a risk matrix. This approach prioritizes aligning the observed risks with the university's stated policies on exam security, candidate fairness, and the integrity of the admissions process. By focusing on the specific regulatory framework of Mustafa College University, this approach ensures that any decisions made are compliant and ethically sound within the defined academic environment. An incorrect approach would be to apply general risk management principles without considering the specific regulatory context of Mustafa College University. This could lead to decisions that, while seemingly logical in a broader sense, violate the university's unique entrance examination rules or ethical standards. For instance, prioritizing speed of resolution over thorough investigation, or focusing solely on the perceived severity of a risk without consulting the university's specific guidelines for handling such situations, would be a regulatory and ethical failure. Another incorrect approach would be to assume a universal standard for exam integrity that might not be explicitly codified or prioritized in the same way by Mustafa College University, potentially leading to an overreaction or underreaction that compromises the fairness of the entrance examination. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and ethical codes. This involves identifying the specific rules applicable to the situation, gathering all relevant information, including the risk matrix, and then evaluating potential actions against these established guidelines. If ambiguity exists, seeking clarification from the appropriate university authority or committee responsible for entrance examination policies is a crucial step. The ultimate goal is to make a decision that upholds the integrity of the examination process and ensures fairness to all candidates, strictly within the bounds of Mustafa College University's framework. Question 16. Performance analysis shows that an applicant for the Mustafa College University entrance exam has achieved excellent scores in most subjects, but a significantly lower score in a critical foundational subject. The applicant has provided a brief explanation citing personal difficulties during the period of that specific examination. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Reject the applicant immediately due to the low score in the critical foundational subject, as this indicates a potential lack of aptitude. Option B. Conduct a follow-up interview with the applicant to understand the nature of their personal difficulties and review their entire academic profile for mitigating factors before making a decision. Option C. Request additional standardized testing in the critical foundational subject to objectively assess the applicant's current proficiency. Option D. Admit the applicant without further investigation, assuming the personal difficulties were significant enough to warrant overlooking the lower score. The correct answer is B. Conduct a follow-up interview with the applicant to understand the nature of their personal difficulties and review their entire academic profile for mitigating factors before making a decision. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's stated commitment to academic integrity with the practical pressures of student performance and potential reputational impact. The admissions committee must make a judgment call that upholds the university's standards without unfairly penalizing a student whose circumstances might warrant consideration. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between genuine academic struggle and deliberate academic misconduct, ensuring fairness and adherence to the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's entire academic record, including any explanations provided for lower performance in specific areas, and considering the context of their previous educational environment. This aligns with the Mustafa College University entrance exam's emphasis on a holistic assessment of applicants, ensuring that decisions are based on a comprehensive understanding of their potential rather than isolated data points. It also reflects an ethical commitment to fairness and due process, allowing applicants to present their case. An incorrect approach would be to automatically reject the applicant based solely on a single lower score, without investigating the reasons behind it. This fails to acknowledge the possibility of extenuating circumstances and disregards the university's stated commitment to a comprehensive evaluation. It also risks overlooking a potentially strong candidate who may have overcome challenges. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the lower score entirely and admit the applicant without any further scrutiny, simply to meet admission targets or avoid difficult conversations. This undermines the integrity of the entrance exam process and the university's academic standards. It also sets a dangerous precedent, suggesting that performance metrics can be disregarded, which is contrary to the principles of a rigorous academic institution. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured review process. First, identify the specific performance metric that raises concern. Second, gather all available information, including the applicant's explanations and supporting documentation. Third, consult the relevant Mustafa College University entrance exam guidelines and policies to ensure compliance. Fourth, engage in a collegial discussion with other members of the admissions committee to reach a consensus based on a balanced consideration of academic merit, contextual factors, and the university's established standards. Question 17. Strategic planning requires the Mustafa College University to secure additional funding for its new research initiative. The college has received an unsolicited offer of a substantial donation from a private foundation known for its aggressive investment strategies, which have sometimes drawn public criticism for their impact on certain communities. The college also has the option to partner with a well-established educational charity for a joint fundraising campaign focused on student scholarships, which would involve a more modest but consistent stream of income. Considering the Mustafa College University entrance exam's emphasis on ethical conduct and responsible resource management, which of the following approaches best aligns with the college's strategic and ethical imperatives? Option A. Accept the donation from the private foundation and immediately launch a public relations campaign to counter any negative perceptions of the foundation. Option B. Pursue both the donation from the private foundation and the joint fundraising campaign simultaneously, without extensive vetting of the private foundation's offer. Option C. Accept the substantial donation from the private foundation, prioritizing the immediate financial benefit for the research initiative while undertaking internal due diligence on the foundation's practices. Option D. Decline the donation from the private foundation due to potential ethical concerns, and proceed with the joint fundraising campaign with the educational charity, focusing on student scholarships. Correct answer is C. Accept the substantial donation from the private foundation, prioritizing the immediate financial benefit for the research initiative, while undertaking internal due diligence on the foundation's practices. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for resources with the long-term sustainability and ethical implications of fundraising activities. The Mustafa College University entrance exam framework emphasizes integrity, responsible resource management, and adherence to ethical fundraising practices. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any fundraising initiative aligns with the college's mission and values and does not compromise its reputation or the trust of its stakeholders. The correct approach involves a thorough assessment of potential fundraising avenues, prioritizing those that are transparent, ethical, and aligned with the college's educational objectives. This includes due diligence on any third-party organizations involved, ensuring clear communication with donors about the use of funds, and establishing robust internal controls for financial management. This approach is justified by the regulatory framework's emphasis on accountability, transparency, and the ethical stewardship of resources. Adhering to these principles safeguards the college's reputation and ensures that fundraising efforts contribute positively to its mission. An incorrect approach that involves accepting a large donation from an organization with questionable ethical practices would fail to uphold the college's commitment to integrity and responsible conduct. This could lead to reputational damage and a loss of public trust, violating ethical guidelines that prohibit association with entities that engage in harmful or unethical activities. Another incorrect approach, such as launching a high-pressure fundraising campaign without clear disclosure of how the funds will be used, would violate principles of transparency and donor respect. This could lead to accusations of misleading donors and a breach of ethical fundraising standards, potentially resulting in regulatory scrutiny and a negative impact on future fundraising efforts. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on the immediate financial benefit without considering the long-term impact on the college's values and mission, demonstrates a lack of strategic foresight and ethical consideration. This short-sighted perspective can lead to decisions that, while providing immediate relief, undermine the college's core principles and its ability to attract future support based on its ethical standing. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations and regulatory compliance alongside financial needs. This involves a multi-stakeholder consultation process, risk assessment of potential fundraising activities, and a clear articulation of the ethical boundaries within which fundraising must operate. The framework should encourage proactive identification of potential ethical conflicts and the development of mitigation strategies, ensuring that all fundraising activities are conducted with the highest standards of integrity and accountability. Question 18. The evaluation methodology shows that the Mustafa College University Entrance Exam is designed to assess not only academic knowledge, but also the ethical understanding and integrity of prospective students. A candidate, upon receiving the examination instructions, notices a minor ambiguity in the wording of a question related to a specific historical event. The candidate is unsure if their interpretation of the instruction is correct and considers several ways to proceed. Which of the following approaches best reflects the expected ethical and regulatory conduct for an Mustafa College University applicant? Option A. The candidate attempts to discreetly ask a fellow applicant for their understanding of the ambiguous instruction during a brief break. Option B. The candidate, recalling a similar question from a practice test they took, uses the information from that practice test to answer the ambiguous question, believing it to be the most likely intended meaning. Option C. The candidate decides to proceed with their best interpretation of the ambiguous instruction, assuming it is a minor detail that will not significantly impact the overall assessment. Option D. The candidate makes a note of the ambiguity, and after completing the exam, submits a formal query to the examination board for clarification on the intended meaning of the instruction. The correct answer is C. The candidate decides to proceed with their best interpretation of the ambiguous instruction, assuming it is a minor detail that will not significantly impact the overall assessment. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the Mustafa College University's admission policies and ethical conduct expectations, as outlined in their entrance exam guidelines. The core of the challenge lies in distinguishing between acceptable and unacceptable methods of seeking an advantage during the examination process, which directly relates to academic integrity and fairness. Careful judgment is required to navigate the subtle line between legitimate preparation and unethical behavior. The correct approach involves a candidate proactively seeking clarification from the examination board regarding any ambiguities in the exam instructions or content, and refraining from any actions that could be construed as seeking an unfair advantage. This aligns with the Mustafa College University's commitment to academic integrity, which is implicitly and explicitly communicated through its entrance exam regulations. By adhering to the stated rules and seeking guidance when unsure, the candidate upholds the principles of fairness and honesty, essential for admission into any reputable academic institution. This approach demonstrates respect for the examination process and the institution's values. An incorrect approach of attempting to gain access to pre-exam materials or sharing information during the exam constitutes a serious breach of academic integrity. Such actions violate the explicit rules against cheating and unauthorized assistance, undermining the validity of the examination and the fairness of the admission process. Ethically, this behavior is dishonest and demonstrates a lack of respect for the principles of meritocracy and equal opportunity that underpin university admissions. It also exposes the candidate to severe penalties, including disqualification from the entrance exam and potential blacklisting from future admissions. Another incorrect approach of misrepresenting qualifications or providing false information on the application form is also a grave ethical and regulatory failure. This deception directly contravenes the university's requirement for truthful and accurate submissions. It not only compromises the integrity of the application review process, but also reflects a fundamental lack of character, which is a critical consideration for any educational institution. Such misrepresentation can lead to immediate rejection of the application or revocation of any offer of admission, along with potential reputational damage. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the governing regulations and ethical codes. Candidates must prioritize honesty, transparency, and adherence to rules. When faced with uncertainty, the professional course of action is always to seek clarification from the appropriate authority rather than to assume or act in a way that could be perceived as circumventing the established procedures. This proactive and principled stance is crucial for maintaining academic and professional credibility. Question 19. Governance review demonstrates that a highly influential individual has requested preferential consideration for their relative applying to Mustafa College University, citing the individual's significant past contributions to the institution. The admissions committee is aware of the applicant's academic record, which is borderline for meeting the standard entrance requirements. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Reject the applicant outright without a formal review to avoid any appearance of impropriety or undue influence. Option B. Conduct a thorough and objective review of the applicant's qualifications against the established entrance criteria, documenting all considerations and decisions, regardless of the external request. Option C. Grant immediate admission to the applicant to acknowledge the influential individual's contributions and maintain a positive relationship. Option D. Postpone the decision indefinitely until the influential individual's request can be further assessed and potentially accommodated. Correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough and objective review of the applicant's qualifications against the established entrance criteria, documenting all considerations and decisions, regardless of the external request. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that could compromise fairness. The Mustafa College University entrance exams regulatory framework, which prioritizes merit-based admissions and ethical conduct, is paramount. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any review process upholds these principles without succumbing to undue influence. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective review of the applicant's qualifications against the established entrance criteria. This approach aligns with the Mustafa College University's commitment to fair and transparent admissions, as mandated by its internal regulations and general principles of educational governance. It ensures that decisions are based on demonstrable academic merit and adherence to the stated entry requirements, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the entrance examination process. An incorrect approach that involves immediate acceptance based on the influential figure's request fails to uphold the principle of equal opportunity and meritocracy. This bypasses the established review process and introduces bias, directly contravening the university's commitment to fair admissions and potentially violating ethical guidelines regarding impartiality. Another incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the applicant outright without a proper review, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and could be perceived as discriminatory or prejudiced, failing to adhere to the university's obligation to assess all applicants fairly based on their submitted credentials and performance against the entrance criteria. A further incorrect approach, which is to delay the decision indefinitely, is unprofessional and evasive. It fails to address the situation directly and can create uncertainty for the applicant and the admissions committee, while also potentially allowing external pressures to fester. This approach does not demonstrate good governance or a commitment to timely and fair decision-making. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear adherence to established policies and procedures. Professionals must first identify the core principles at stake, e.g., fairness, merit, integrity. They should then consult the relevant regulatory framework and internal guidelines to determine the appropriate course of action. If external pressures arise, they must be managed by strictly adhering to the established process, documenting all interactions, and seeking guidance from senior management or ethics committees if ambiguity or conflict exists. The focus must always remain on objective assessment and ethical conduct. Question 20. Risk assessment procedures indicate a potential discrepancy in the academic transcripts submitted by an applicant for the Mustafa College University entrance exam. The transcripts appear to show a higher grade average than what is reflected in the applicant's previous school leaving certificate. The applicant, when questioned, provides a verbal explanation citing a clerical error in the certificate issuance. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Accept the applicant's verbal explanation and proceed with the admission without further verification, prioritizing the applicant's stated intent. Option B. Proceed with the admission based on the transcript, assuming the applicant's explanation is accurate and the certificate is erroneous. Option C. Request the applicant to provide official documentation from their previous school confirming the clerical error and reissuance of the certificate, and defer the admission decision until verification. Option D. Reject the application immediately due to the suspected falsification of academic records. Correct answer is B. Proceed with the admission based on the transcript, assuming the applicant's explanation is accurate and the certificate is erroneous. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the applicant to balance the university's admission policies with the ethical considerations of potentially misleading information. The applicant must exercise sound judgment to ensure fairness and integrity in the admissions process, adhering strictly to the Mustafa College University entrance exam's regulatory framework. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective verification of all submitted documents against the stated admission criteria. This ensures that the college upholds its commitment to admitting qualified candidates based on merit and accurate information, thereby maintaining the integrity of its academic standards and reputation. This aligns with the core principles of fairness and transparency expected in any educational institution's admissions process, as implicitly governed by the exam's regulatory framework, which prioritizes accurate representation of applicant qualifications. An incorrect approach would be to overlook discrepancies due to time pressure or a desire to meet admission targets. This failure to verify information directly contravenes the implicit requirement for due diligence in the admissions process. It risks admitting unqualified students, undermining the academic rigor of the university, and potentially creating an unfair advantage for the applicant. Another incorrect approach would be to accept the applicant's explanation without independent verification. This demonstrates a lack of critical assessment and a failure to adhere to established procedures for validating applicant credentials, which is a fundamental aspect of responsible admissions management. Finally, an approach that involves making assumptions about the applicant's intentions or circumstances without concrete evidence is also professionally unsound. Admissions decisions must be based on verifiable facts and adherence to established criteria, not on subjective interpretations or assumptions. Professionals in admissions should employ a structured decision-making process that prioritizes verification, adherence to policy, and ethical conduct. This involves 1. Identifying the discrepancy and its potential implications. 2. Consulting the relevant university admission policies and guidelines. 3. Seeking clarification or additional documentation from the applicant, if permitted by policy. 4. Conducting independent verification of information where necessary and feasible. 5. Making a decision based on objective evidence and established criteria, documenting the rationale clearly.